Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Untangle Tech Talk webinar, Dashboards and Reports. My name is Steve Young and I'm with the marketing team at Untangle. Today we have Eric Newvine, who is our sales engineer, and he's going to run you through our reporting system and dashboards. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. If you have any audio issues, please use the audio panel to select your preferences and configure your audio options. If you are going to use the phone, you're going to need to dial in and use the access code provided. And just as a reminder that this webinar is being recorded, so you're going to have the option to rewatch or revisit the areas that you need to follow up on. We will be answering questions throughout the presentation, so please submit them through the Q&A box. We have people on staff that will be monitoring those and answering questions as they come in. You can always send follow-up questions to sales@untangle.com as well. Now, this wasn't put into any of the registration emails, but if you stick around to the end of the webinar, we are going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card. We want to reward the people who registered and showed up, so lucky you guys. One lucky name will be drawn, and we'll reach out afterwards to send you the card digitally. And with that, I'm going to pass that to Eric, and take it away.
Thanks, Steve. All right, so to start with just reports in general. Our reporting engine is actually pretty robust. There's a lot of things that you can do with our reports. Everything is entirely self-contained, can be viewed online, either through the admin interface itself or through a separate interface that is designed specifically for report-only users. The reports are designed to provide users with detailed stats on traffic and activity, both on the Untangle appliance itself, as well as traffic happening on the network behind the appliance. These reports are completely customizable, and you can set up email templates or summaries that can be sent via email to individual report users on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. You also have several options to back up your data. So if you want to save your reports for a longer period of time than what you have storage for on the device itself, you can either do local backups or even do a backup automatically to Google Drive. So as I'd already mentioned, there's these reports users and these templates. Essentially, if you go into the reports app in the apps view in your Untangle NG firewall, there's two tabs in there. One is email templates and the other is reports users. The email templates, as you can see in this screen here, allows you to select specific reports that can then be sent, again, at a specific interval, whether daily, weekly, or monthly, to any report users that you wish. Any report that is available in the reports system, with the exception of events type reporting, which we'll look at in the demonstration, can be included in these templates. That includes custom reports as well, not just the default ones that come with the system. There's no limit to the number of these templates that you can create. So if you have use cases for 50 different templates going to 50 different departments or persons within your organization, we can easily accomplish that in our system. A report user is really nothing more than a way to identify either an email address or a login for a user to be able to access reporting information. If you do specify just an email address, then that means that that user, or that person rather, will receive an emailed summary automatically from the Untangle system. If you set up a login, meaning either an email address or a username, and a password, then they have the option to actually log into the Untangle interface and get direct access to the reports view. This is a restricted access view. You can only view reports with these users. You have no access to the rest of the configurations, so you do not have administration level access. So taking a look at the extra reports view, this is essentially what the report users would be restricted to. All of these other menu options at the top would not be available. You would just have reports. All of your reports are pre-sorted by category, and the list of categories show up on the left-hand side of your screen. This list is automatically populated depending on the applications that you have installed on your NG firewall. When you've selected a category and a report within that category, the report is shown in the main screen here on the center right. Reports is SQL driven, so it will store everything in a database so that it's easy to run queries to get the reporting information that we're using here. Because of that, you also have the ability to use conditions that are SQL based to filter these reports so that you can get very, very granular, detailed information about very specific things that you're looking for. By default, the NG firewall does store only 7 days of data. However, depending on the size of the hard drive in your device, you can hold up to 365 days of data locally on the NG firewall so that you can access that information at any point after that time. So here's an example of one of our graphical pie chart reports. This one is web filter top sites by request. Essentially what you would be doing is you select the web filter category, and then you select the name of the report you want to look at. As you can see from the list, there are several types of reports available: pie charts, bar graphs, line graphs, and again, even those summary and event type reports. Most of your graph style reporting or visual reporting will have a legend. If you click on an item in the legend, as you can see here, this one was clicked on, so it's grayed out. That removes that particular piece of information from the report. So if you select that, that slice of the pie gets removed from the view. So this makes it very easy for you to filter only what you're looking for in this specific report. Another useful piece of information about these reports: any report that is available in the reports view can be added to your dashboard as a widget. And we'll get into the dashboard a little bit later. The other piece of the reports view is being able to conditionally filter the information that you're seeing. Your conditions field and time ranged fields are both here at the top left corner of the screen. Any condition that you add is applied globally. That means that all reports that have relevant data sets for that condition will be filtered with that condition. Additionally, above and beyond the conditions field, there's a filter field on event type reports. That is specific filtering for that report only. In that particular case, you can put in a keyword term to filter just that report so you can see the information you're looking for without having to change the global conditions. Any report that doesn't match the condition that you've set is automatically grayed out. That makes it a much more easy, user-friendly interface so that you know immediately what reports are relevant to the conditions you're looking for. Again, all reports can be customized. That also means that you can save any current report with a condition as a new report. We also have what we refer to as a drill down option for many of our conditions, including client, username, as well as time range. In the demo, I'll go into this further just to show you how that looks like. But essentially, you can click on a slice of the pie, and it will prompt you to actually add it as a global condition to be used in the reports moving forward from that point. Okay. let's talk about actually customizing reports. All reports have a settings button at the top right corner up here. This is actually showing you the settings view for this specific report. The settings menu allows you to customize an existing report and then save it as a new report. Any report that you create does need to have a unique name, otherwise it won't save. Our system does require unique names on all of our reports. So essentially what you would do is you'd come in here and change this title to something different, change whatever settings, whatever conditions you want to add or change, and then click the Create New button. You also have the option to create a brand new report from scratch in our system. The Add Report button is available at the bottom of the list of categories in the left-hand side of the reports view. And what this does is it opens our essentially the same thing as the settings screen, except without having a pre-populated view here until you actually add information into it. We've already selected the category and the type of report here. And at one point we had added a number of conditions here to pre-populate this. By default, this does not show anything until you actually add a condition. And then you can either preview or refresh if you've already done a preview to see what that report's going to look like. Once it meets your needs, you can then again click the Create New button, and that report will be saved to be used both in the reports view or to be added as a dashboard widget. Okay, now we've talked about the reports engine. Let's take a look at the actual dashboard. The dashboard is intended to be a very summarized, quick view or information at a glance, if you will, for an admin. This is a completely customizable view that gives you that instantaneous overview of everything that's going on, both in the NG firewall system itself, as well as on the network behind it. As we said earlier, dashboards utilize widgets. A widget is really nothing more than each of those little reports that you see in the dashboard itself. The Untangle's widget system allows you to customize the information that you see in the dashboard. This ranges anywhere from adding widgets that aren't already there, creating a new report directly from the dashboard view that would then allow you to use it as a widget. You can change the order of the widgets that are in the dashboard, and we also give the option to reset it back to the default listing and order. Again, widgets can be created from any report, but the significant difference between a widget and the reports themselves is that a widget will only show you no more than 24 hours of data. You can change that to a shorter time frame, but the maximum is 24 hours, regardless of the data retention settings that you have set up in reports. There are some other options available in each individual widget by clicking on this, the 3 horizontal lines menu button on the widget itself. That will open this submenu that you see down here. The information that's available in here may change slightly depending on the type of report or widget that you're looking at. But in the majority of cases, this is what you're going to see. We give you the option to download either a copy of the image that you're seeing, or if it's a summary or event type report, it will download a copy of the data set, usually as a CSV file, directly to your computer so that you can then analyze it further outside of the NG firewall system. You also have the option to open this report or widget directly in the reports view so that you can then dig in deeper to find out what's going on with something that you're seeing that might be unusual in the widget. And these last couple of settings here let you change the size of the widget, as well as how often the widget refreshes itself. Most of these refresh at about a minute interval, but some of them refresh more often or less often, depending on what the information is that's being shown. But all of that can be changed in this settings menu. Okay, so now that we have gone through the basics of the dashboard and given a general overview of the reports, let's actually hop into a system and take a look at what a lot of this stuff looks like in action when we're using it. And I am going to switch to another device. And if we jump right into our reports, if we go into, let's select bandwidth control. And I want to see top application by total bytes. So this report is going to give me bandwidth usage based on the application control application type in a pie graph. In this particular case, a lot of these applications are pretty generic. For example, SSL or HTTP. These are pretty generic terms. But a lot of these are also very, very specific. So we can say, hey, Facebook, I don't think that we're supposed to be allowing people to have access to Facebook. Let's take a look at why this is taking up data on my network. So I can click on this pie slice. As you see, this is the confirmation to add a condition. I'll click yes. And it changes this graph automatically to show you just that specific condition, just the Facebook application. So this report is now not as useful as it was previously. However, if you were to take and move to another report, even in bandwidth control, we go to all sessions. Now everything that I'm seeing in this event type reporting is pre-filtered to show you sessions and the bandwidth usage just for Facebook traffic. So you're immediately seeing just the data that's relevant to the condition you're looking for. If I were to switch from bandwidth control to, let's do application control. Now, if I wanted to look at top application usage, this is still being filtered by Facebook, but you can see there's a bunch of peaks for when that activity was occurring. Let's pick one at random. And I want to drill in closer to see a shorter time frame for when this Facebook application was being accessed. If I click and drag my mouse over that peak and then release, I have now drilled in to a shorter time frame just to see that about an hour's worth of data. And I could zoom again. And now I'm seeing about 10 minutes instead. Now, if I wanted to keep this time frame, you'll see there's this button here, apply this time range. That is going to change the time range at the top to match. So now when I'm looking at the rest of the reports, I am looking at a approximately 20-minute interval. It's not exactly the same because it was more than 10 minutes. So it puts the closest range that it has available in that time range. It'll pre-populate everything only for that 20 minutes that I'm looking at so that I'm seeing just the relevant data for that peak. So now if I go into network and look at sessions per minute, I can see that there were 48 sessions to Facebook at 8:32 this morning. And that's where reports can be really, really useful to help you in troubleshooting situations that are anomalous, not necessarily bad, but they're not common. They're not what usually happens and is occurring on your network. You can use the tools that are in the reports to very quickly and easily see what's going on at any given time, even in the past, as long as you have the data retention set to cover that time frame. Okay, so now that we've seen how these conditions work, I'm going to reset everything back to today. And let's look at actually saving a new report. So let's do, why not? We'll do application control again. I want to see top flagged host names. There's nothing there because nothing's been flagged. Let's find one that actually has some information in it. Let's go to web filter. Top clients. Okay. So this report is showing you browser-based activity broken out by client IP address, top number of requests in a given time frame per IP. We can see that some of these are significantly larger than others, and the rest of them are all pretty much the same. There's not much difference between them, about 10%. But we have this one that for whatever reason is almost 5% higher than the average. So if we wanted to, we could go to settings and we can select a condition, client, add, and I enter 192.0.2.57. And this particular report's not going to be that useful, mainly because I'm thinking I'm going to be using just this one IP address. But instead of doing that, instead of doing a client, we could do other things. So maybe we're worried about Facebook. We could come in here, add host, facebook.com. And if we change the report to top clients, Facebook, if we hit preview, now we're seeing top clients accessing Facebook in that time frame. So now I can save this as a new report, and it'll show up in the list here directly under this other top clients report as a new report. So I don't have to filter this again in the future if I want to see if this information changes. Then at that point, I can add it to the dashboard as a widget, or I can add it to a report template to send to administration, for example, who are concerned about the fact that employees are accessing Facebook. I'm going to cancel out of that. And then we'll take a look at the apps. I'm going to jump quickly into the reports application because there's a couple of things in here that I want to review. First thing is this data retention. The data tab actually has a couple of very useful settings in it. The first is data retention. The data retention days by default is 7 days. We have it set to 1 day on our demo box because we're trying to keep the size of the hard drive space used to a minimum. But you can set this to up to 365 days, like I said earlier. It's potentially possible, depending on space, that you might be able to get it to go higher than that, but that's our benchmark. That's as far as we've been able to consistently get data to stay and be usable. But you can set that data retention to any number of days that you wish, as long as you have the hard drive space to hold it. The other option that's in here is Google Drive backup. This is where you can actually set up an automated backup of your reports data to a folder in your Google Drive. If this had been configured, I don't know if you can see them necessarily on my screen, they're grayed out, but there's a couple of options in here. Upload data to Google Drive, upload CSVs to Google Drive. Essentially, the data is just going to be a JSON file that tells us how to get that information back into the Untangle system if you try to re-import it later. Whereas the CSVs is just a dump of the information itself that you can use in other analytics tools in a format that most of them are easily able to read. Email templates. We do provide a daily reports template by default, as I'm sure most of you are aware. The system automatically sends you a daily summary report if you're the admin. This is set up by default. You don't have to do anything other than in the setup wizard, enter your email address as the admin email. This is already here by default. You can add additional templates, and you can set it to whatever interval you wish. Because we're only saving 1 day of data on this system, our only options are daily and then week to date and month to date. If we were saving more than 30 days of data, you would have daily, weekly, monthly, week to date, month to date, all as options available for you. And then it's just a matter of selecting the reports that you want to be in this template. And most of them are already pre-populated here. If I don't want a specific report in here, I just hit the little minus sign and it disappears. And maybe I accidentally removed memory usage and actually want it there. If I come back into add report, network, actually it's system, memory usage, it's back again. But as you can see, this is broken up as close to what you see in the actual UI as possible. So if you want something that would relate to config admin, you would actually go into the administration option and select it. Same with devices, events, etc. And then of course all of our apps are listed here as well. So you can select any reports that you want to be added to this template. Once that's done, you've made the selections that you want, you hit done, and then when that's complete, you hit save. And now you have another template that you can use to send to report users. Report users, the admin user is there by default. You can add additional. And this can be an email address. It can even be a username. It doesn't have to be an email address. You can do just this. If you do this, they will not get a template email. So generally speaking, if you want them to get templates as well as being able to do other things in the system, like being able to access the reports view, you would be much further ahead to use an email address as the user. And then you'd select the template that you want to use. Because I didn't save the test template, the only one that's there is daily reports. But if there were multiple here, they would all be listed here. And you can have multiple email templates sent to the same report user. So you can have 5 different reports all going to the same person, or distribution list if that's what you wish to do. You have the option to not only send reports, but you can also have admin alerts sent to this user. So you can have alerts sent to a non-admin user so that they don't have access to configs, but they can still be notified if they need to be in the event that perhaps you're an offsite consultant for them. And then of course, the other option here is online access. If you enable this, you then come in to change password, you set the password for the user, and then they can log into the UI and access the reports view. Okay, so now if we go back into dashboard, we did show some of this in the slides specifically when we were talking about dashboard widgets, but I just wanted to show you how some of this works. So we can add widgets that are not already here. If they were actually missing, most of these are in here already. In fact, I think, yeah, everything's in here. But if it wasn't, you could just use add common widgets and it would add it back in for you. The reorder option is a little bit tricky until you get a feel for how it works. Basically what you're doing is you're reordering the list, not the view here. So if you wanted sessions per minute, which is down here right now, moved up next to map distribution, you would select it in the list and drop it directly below the map distribution. And as you can see, it immediately redraws it and puts it right next to the map distribution. And let's say I made a bunch of changes and I ended up not liking the way it looks. If I hit reset the defaults, it moves everything back to the way it originally was. And as you can see, we had actually already made changes in this dashboard because now it looks different than it did before. Show you quickly what this menu option looks like, the settings option on the individual widgets. The common widgets that you see at the top here don't have the menu option because these are just widgets. There's not an actual report tied directly to them. These are just dashboard widgets. But anything that is an actual report in the system, like interface usage, sessions per minute, anything below that, with the exception of notifications, you have options. So you can come in here, you can download the image, you can jump directly to it in reports, which I'll do in a moment, or you can change the size of the widget. By default, it's set to medium. Let's save it as extra large. Notice it is now much bigger. And you can do that with any of these reports, with the exception of the ones on the top. So I'm going to set it back to medium. I can change the auto refresh rate to as little as 10 seconds to up to 5 minutes, or I can tell it to never refresh. So it will only show new data when you refresh your browser session, or if you browse away from the dashboard view and then come back to it again. All right, so the other thing was the show in reports. So I have selected top host name usage for bandwidth control. If I click open in reports, it takes me directly to that report in the reports view, so I can then modify and change the conditions to change what I'm seeing on my screen. And this makes it very easy to transition from an overview to very specific detailed information for something that you want to know more about. All right, how are we doing on questions?
Looks like we have a lot of questions answered.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like anything that's pressing. So if you are good to go, we can go to the gift card giveaway.
All right, good deal. I'll switch back over. All right, let's go ahead and do it.
All right, so let's do a little drum roll. And let's just pull a name from the list. Looks our winner for this webinar today will be John Baker. Congratulations, John. I will email you with your Amazon gift card and details for redemption after this webinar. If there's nothing else, Eric?
Oh, I think we're good.
Cool. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and posted to the Untangle YouTube channel, and you'll also get an email for follow-up. Thank you all for joining, and we appreciate you It's actually Baker, not Barger. Sorry, John, Barger. All right. And thank you all for coming.